So once we realized that we had something, like something was unique about it, we didn't really know what was unique about it yet, but we knew something had clicked.
And the feedback was there.
Feedback
even
was
from
massive,
even from the first game.
The
Consultative sales game. People saying, this blew my mind. This was one of the best things I've ever attended. But I think we both knew deep down that there was a lot more work to do on the game itself. You know, we grabbed the chips game. We're like, there's something in this thing.
This was the gold amongst the
That
rubble.
was the gold. But yeah, I knew we were onto something based on the feedback. But I knew there was a lot of work to do on actually refining the game and making it a whole lot better.
Sure. I think from that perspective was where we realized that the most effective games, let's just even actually solidify it, isolate it to the most effective game, the one, was the chips game. And the reason it was so powerful was because, speaking psychologically, it was so raw and so close to the human condition and how people most act just naturally if they just had a raw environment to just be...
People were themselves.
Be literally human being. Does that make sense? So that was what brought it to life. And then we realized, well, anything that we do moving forward with this, if we're going to take this one thing as the most important thing, this one game as the ideal game, then anything that we create for it needs to be representative of real life and the way it already works and simulates the environment that people play in the business world every day. So from there, I think, what was the first thing that, we created unlocks, we created actual scenarios and environments that happen in the real world. We brought them to the sales game. Well, it was still the consultative sales game at that stage, brought them to the actual full experience.
This is the fun part. This is really the fun part for me personally, because I think, you kind of grabbed the vision of there's something about this psychologically that we learn so much more through play than just pure consumption of information. But when it got to actually refining the game, that's where I felt like the inner kid came out in me. Because I grew up playing board games. I grew up playing video games. Still to this day, I got a really solid group of friends where we play board games and make our own board games and stuff. And so the concept of mechanics and unlocks was like, oh, this is really cool. But I think that's the secret sauce, is anytime we worked on an unlock or a refinement to the game, we always ask that question, how does this represent life?
Yes.
And so I think the first one we did was tax.
That's right.
Probably because we had a tax bill.
We were annoyed that we had a tax bill, so we'll take it out on the consultative sales game players and teach them how to pay tax.
We dropped the consultative as well. The second one just became the sales game.
Okay, great.
Wasn't so consultative. We introduced tax, and that was fun because the second event we ran, the sales game, again, 2-day event, but all we did was play the chips game in rounds. Same version. No idea when the time was going to end. No idea how many rounds. But we started to play around with some unlocks. And I think the first one was tax. So we taxed from the players that had lots of chips.
And gave it to the poor.
We gave it to the people that had no chips.
It's almost like that, when you play in Mario Kart, and if you're losing by a lot, the computer magically seems to give you all the good items.
You get everything good now.
So it felt like that was like the people who were leading would be brought back just a little bit of a peg, and the people who were down the bottom would be brought up just a little bit of a peg. And over a 2-day event, it kept the entire environment, much like life, especially in many capital government environments,
in the game,
keeps everyone in the game. And so when that was introduced to the sales game, people started being strategic about tax. And that happens in the real world as well. Second unlock that we had, which I was fascinated by, was the casino. And we just played it simple. It was just like, you can bet 1, 2, or 3 chips on whether this next card's going to be red or black. But if it's a jack, the house wins. So teaching people, you can go to the casino if you want, but the odds are against you. But hey, no one's taking away that opportunity for you. If you want to go gamble your money, you can. Gamble your chips.
Did you notice anything psychologically about, because I looked at it just purely objectively, seeing the players play. The people that love the excitement, love the rush, love the thrill, the ups and downs. They seem to be quite drawn to the gambling side of things and drawn to casinos.
Definitely. Well, Interestingly enough, I would say as a demographic, you would say young males were attracted most to the casino. The quickest, and also, well, the type, and we've got, footage that just like most casino footage we've got is of young blokes, young men. Yeah. Just like, and then walking away and then coming back again.
Found some more chips.
Yes. Yeah, but they learned, that's the thing is they learned that about themselves in the sales game. So they don't have to go learn it in the outside world.
But it was even interesting to see how people then use tax in one from a strategic point of view. But some people even created business models out of the casino where people would accumulate other chips and they started to use marketing spend and all that sort of stuff to get free chips for people to start the game. It was just amazing to see. For me, that was a real like eye-opener from the unlocks.
Yes.
Seeing how people could take a very open world, open source world, no rules still.
Yes.
But by adding a few little flavors throughout the game that simulates life.
Yep.
How people were either drawn to that based on human behavior and how they do this in the real world, but two, how it gave people opportunity for creativity. And I think like in the modern business world, that's when I personally got super excited because it almost became beyond just sales training then. It became almost an environment of like, how flexible are you? How adaptable are you? How creative are you? If you've got a few raw ingredients, what sort of meals can you make out of it?
Nice.
I love that. I loved watching that because I'm a creative guy. I love creative ventures. That's the thing that gives me probably the biggest buzz out of anything. To see the game actually facilitate creativity within people, I was like, this is sick.
Yep, totally. And then the next one was, so we had tax, casino, bank. So people could do...
things. Fat cat banks.
Yeah, the fat cat bank. So term deposits, we could loan them chips. And that was really cool because it mimics life, but it also gave people the opportunity to be more safe with their money, I guess. They weren't going to go zooming ahead at 100 miles an hour unless they borrowed chips from the bank to implement an idea they had in the game. Again, much similar to life. Interestingly enough, you never saw one person really be the type that went to the bank, but also went to the casino. Like they're very different psychological profiles, so to speak. So that was great. And then from there, of course, the idea that brought so many of the ideas that people come up with in the game, brought them to life. Which was the Shark Tank.
Shark Tank was a game changer.
And the Shark Tank essentially...
did we prepare for the Shark Tank?
Not so much. I mean, most of the unlocks that we did, we probably only took one event to really polish them. The first time we did the Shark Tank, that was all about, give us an idea that you want to work with in the room here, or an idea that exists in your business in the real world. And if we think it's good, we'll back it with more chips. But the beauty of it was, in order for us to back people as the Shark Tank, we needed them to back themselves first. So if they had an idea of a business they wanted to start, they needed to show us the actual email they sent to the accountant saying, can we call on Monday? I need to go,
Some new marketing, some prospecting, whatever it was to grow their business.
Show us the emails you've sent to your market database, all of that. So actual action was happening right there in the room. It was fun for everyone because it was all part of a game. They got instant feedback from us as their mentors right there, instant feedback from the room as well on people thinking about their ideas. So those unlocks that critically and exactingly, I hope that's a word, represent real world, real life. Those concepts that were brought into it, it sort of let us know, I think, ultimately that we had something. This has legs, and it is very different to the typical sales and business training out there.
Worked. That's the thing. I think when we did that second event and it had some of these unlocks and we're pretty much playing the chips game, which is now the sales game, for the whole time, it took that first event where people were getting those light bulbs to people literally saying, this blew my mind over and over again. Like, not only was it a light bulb, but like the whole thing exploded and people could not go back to who they were before. And that's when, we were getting emails and messages and phone calls of people months later. Like we still get it today, months after they've played, still reflecting on the game. And seeing the fruits of the ideas that they came up with in the game.
Yeah. One of my favorite was a guy, Simon, and he'd been in business for 20, 30 years or something like this.
35 years or something.
He said his entire paradigm of business, and he's successful in business.
Very successful, man.
His entire paradigm of business had shifted after what he learned just through playing the game.
48 hours, yeah.
You know, so, and that was, humbly speaking, that was like we were there with them. We weren't like, yeah, I know, our thing's pretty good, isn't it? We were like, I know, it's really good, isn't it? Like this game that just brings it to the surface. We were on the journey with them. I think now we're sort of more.
The difference was this, right? Before the sales game, when we're just in the world of delivering great content, I don't know about you, but I'd consulted to 8,000, 9,000 people, hundreds of companies. I don't think I've ever had someone with that much business experience like Simon, that much wealth.
Yeah.
Actually say, you know, my whole paradigm has shifted based on the stuff that I taught. But the thing that was really interesting, because I remember we had to kind of help each other in this, because we're so used to always delivering and helping, was the idea of letting it go as facilitators.
Yeah, and let the game run.
Let the game run. And that completely changed my paradigm around education. Yeah. That by creating an environment for people to learn through, people learn way more in that than they ever could with just information alone. But when the two came together, I remember we were delivering some trainings in between the rounds where people might be struggling with, say, logic or emotion or whatever approach they were working on. When you then gave the content to be like, hey, here's a model to think through, or here's a model to work through.
In the next round, implement this model.
They could immediately grab it, hold it, work with it, and then that's when the learnings were getting cemented. Yeah. That's when people were like, oh, I changed that one thing and the whole game changed for me that round. Yeah. That was super cool to see.
I think, number one, like with the testimonials that came with it and everything like that, we then started to put the content out to the world. So it wasn't like we had this sales game thing we were working on. Very quickly, it became evident that people wanted to share what they'd learned.
People were promoting it for us.
Yeah, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, people were like, you know, this has just blown my mind. You've got to try this. You've got to play this. Once the content and, you know, Matt started creating a ton of great content and putting the videos out there, once that started filtering out to the world, people were instantly intrigued. And
the doors were opening.
Yeah, well, I think that's when people started to go, what is this thing? And still even today, people would be like, what is this thing? I see what they're doing. I see the sales game. I see the logo around. I know Steve, I know Darcy, but I don't know what this sales game thing is. But it looks so intriguing. And I'm so curious as to what's actually going on with all of it, but I don't necessarily know what it even is. And that has been such a common flavor of the sales game and any probably games-based learning, is because you can't necessarily give content on it unless you're telling the story of it like this. But, you know, it was that's sort of one of the major themes has been just massive intrigue and curiosity. From there, I think one of the coolest parts was a guy, shout out to Dale Dupree over in Orlando, America. That he heard about it, contacted me on LinkedIn, and he said, I think it's time that we bring you boys over to America to, you know, show my community this and start doing some pretty cool sales game sort of stuff over in America. And then we were like,
okay,
wow, okay. This is spreading very rapidly, because that was within 6 months of the first game. Yeah.
Nothing like that had happened before.